Dillian, the body snatcher right here. It's a champ. Big up to Sporting Icon. Subscribe. Otherwise, I might pay you guys a visit.
So, Joyce versus BERMANE Stiverne. Now, this was an interesting fight, and we got to see exactly where it was that Joyce was at. What kind of improvements has he made? Now, he's had a couple of fights being trained by Abel Sanchez, and of course, BERMANE Stiverne. Now, I've been saying with BERMANE Stiverne, and a lot of you guys have been as well. I know he's been talking about potentially fighting Anthony Joshua, which was always ridiculous. But for me, he's been gatekeeper. He's never been an elite fighter. And that's the truth of it. When he won the WBC heavyweight title, it was a cherry pick against a guy that he'd already beaten in Chris Arreola. Why? Because of Don King WBC relationship. Deontay Wilder goes in there, gets a points win, gets a title. But then he has, one fight in 2 years against a Derek Rossi where he gets dropped in that fight. Derek Rossi is, in every sense of the word, a gatekeeper, a journeyman almost. Okay, so when you are arguably winning that kind of fight, and it is arguable, and then have the best part of 2 years off, then going against Wilder gets all this praise for knocking him out. As I said, there was no praise needed because BERMANE Stiverne was never that good, and it showed again in this fight as well. So after, 14, 15 months out of the ring, he gets in there with Joyce. This was Joyce's 8th pro fight. So it's a decent step up for him. And this was for some WBA gold heavyweight title. I've never heard of such a thing. But you know what these sanctioning bodies are like. They just create belts for whatever. In fact, I believe that this is for the mandatory position for Manuel Charr for the WBA regular. I'm pretty sure that's how it is. Anyway, so how did this fight go? So Joyce wins this one by a stoppage in round number 6. To be honest, I thought he would get him out of there earlier. And to be honest, he probably should have done. Really. I mean, dropping BERMANE Stiverne is something that we all expected anyway. And the stoppage is something that we all expected anyway. But what kind of impressed me about this one with Joyce is the fact that he has patience and he has timing. But boy, is he slow. He's very, very slow. I don't know whether or not he's doing this to try and conserve energy for the later rounds. I don't know what it is that he's doing because he's quite a flexible guy. He does backflips and all sorts in the ring. But when he's fighting, he's very, very, very slow. And BERMANE Stiverne was there to be hit. And you could probably argue that the fight should have been stopped way before it did, arguably from round number 2 onwards, really, because Joyce was just punishing him. And they weren't fast shots, but they were just decent thudding left hooks, right hooks. And for whatever reason, Joyce didn't implement any kind of body shots. I felt that if he'd have started using some body shots, BERMANE Stiverne would have been out of there long before that he was. But it's a dominating victory for Joyce, that's for sure. And can he go on from this? Certainly. I think that Joyce can mix it with that kind of level, no problem. And with the kind of level that I'm talking about is European kind of level. But I think anybody in the top 10, it's going to be a real test for him. And I would worry for him, to be honest with you, because of his speed. His speed is not that great, and he doesn't implement body shots like he should. And it's just a case of he's there to be hit as well. Now, BERMANE Stiverne, I think he was doing that old veteran kind of soaking up a bit of punishment and then try and maybe catch one and stop Joyce. But it was a stupid tactic if that's what it was. But Joyce was just thudding. He was dominant and he was hitting BERMANE Stiverne with some pretty big shots, even though the shots were pretty slow, pretty methodical, but you could see that there's a bit of weight, a bit of power behind them. And BERMANE Stiverne was soaking them up. But ultimately, as I said, I think this fight could have been stopped beforehand had the referee have stopped this fight at any point from round number 2 onwards. Had BERMANE Stiverne's team threw in the towel, I wouldn't have complained, not at all. I think that he soaked up a lot of punishment. He wasn't really in the fight at all. He had the odd flurry here and there just to show that he was kind of still in the fight. So the referee didn't stop it. But either way, I think that ITV, the PBC, were looking for that showcase knockout reel, which kind of came, I suppose. But I think BERMANE Stiverne took way too much punishment in this fight. His face, his lip looked pretty swollen, and as I said, the referee should have stopped this fight way before he did. But either way, it's a decent victory for Joyce. It is a learning fight as such. As I said, this is only his 8th pro fight, and he's now defeated, on paper at least, a former WBC heavyweight champion of the world. So good stuff for Joe Joyce. I would imagine that he's probably going to vacate the Commonwealth. He's had that Commonwealth for the best part of a year now and hasn't defended it. It's time to get rid. Okay, let some other people fight for it. Arguably Dave Allen versus Lucas Brown. Why not have that on there, or who knows, something else. But I do feel that Joe Joyce, he is improving, as in he's getting, you can see him mature each fight. He's getting more and more mature, but he is still doing the amateur kind of style. You know, he's not really defending himself too much. He's defending shots with his head. It's okay when you're doing that with an amateur, when you've got head guards on, but in the pro game, not a good idea. And anybody with any kind of power and any kind of timing could get Joe Joyce out there. But there again, that is speculation. Have we ever seen Joe Joyce hurt? Not really. Okay, or not in the pro game at least anyway. So anyway, congratulations to Joe Joyce. 6-round stoppage. He's now the WBA Gold Heavyweight Champion, which, as I said, I believe that is for the mandatory for Manuel Charr. So will he get a shot at Manuel Charr? Will he be entered into what they're calling the Anthony Joshua tournament? Potentially. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, you drop your thoughts below about it. What do you make of Joe Joyce? Do you think that this is a great show for Joe Joyce? Do you think that there's some worrying signs with Joe Joyce? And what about BERMANE Stiverne? Is it time that he just hung it up? For me, as I said, he was always that kind of level and will never, ever improve. So, you know, he can talk a good game, but ultimately, he's just not an elite fighter. That's my honest opinion. Anyway, you drop your thoughts below about it all. Click thumbs up and, of course, subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.